been reporting on the reopening of schools all morning long. So joining me right now by the phone is New York City School Chancellor Richard Carranza, all about the 190,000 kiddos headed back to school today. Good morning to you, Chancellor. Thanks for making the time this morning.
Good morning, Dan. Thanks for having me.
So, Chancellor, let's get into it this morning. Should parents feel safe having their kids return because of this new system in place that everyone has to have a consent form?
Yes, absolutely. We're continuing what we did back in September. You know, wear your face mask, face covering, social distancing, washing your hands, disinfecting, PPE, all of that's still in place. But we've added the additional security of, instead of monthly randomized testing, we're doing weekly randomized testing. So that means that every student must have a consent form on file in order to remain in-person learning.
And that testing would happen in school?
That is correct.
Understood. Okay, I want to talk about the rules for teachers and staff as well in terms of testing for them. Do they have to be tested within the facility that they are in, or can they opt out of that and get a test outside of the school?
Well, we encourage everyone to continue to get tested as often as you can, but for the purposes of monitoring, is there any asymptomatic spread in the school community, it has to be literally a sample that happens in school on a given day with people that are in school that day. So they need to get tested in school as part of that randomized sample.
So if a student or a staff member says, I don't want to be tested in the facility, are they told to go home?
So it's required. So it's a condition of employment for employees and for students. We've been very clear now for several months that if you do not agree to be tested, then you are choosing remote learning. That's unfortunately the reality in a pandemic of being inside a building with hundreds of other people.
Of course, understood. Now I want to talk about that decision to go fully remote. For those who chose in November to go fully remote prior to the decision to reopen, prior to all of this news about a vaccine, they may be feeling more confident now and say, uh-oh, I may have made a mistake. Will those parents have the choice to opt back into in-person learning?
So again, as circumstances change, we're going to be very flexible about that. Our goal is to obviously give as many parents and students the opportunity to be in person as possible. As the mayor has spoken about, there's good news on the way. We're on the cusp of having a vaccine and then being able to inoculate folks. That's going to change the landscape for many of us in New York City. So there are things on the way that will make it possible for us to reevaluate at the first available opportunity, other opportunities for students that would like in person to actually have in person.
Understood. And this morning we spoke with the CSA president, Mark Canizzaro. I know you're familiar with him, about staffing shortages within the system. With about these 190,000 kids going back to school today, do you have enough staff to keep everything up and running? And how many schools will actually go to 5 days a week?
Well, we've got a lot of principals right now working very hard, and I want to thank them for their hard work, really examining how many students can they bring back 5 days a week. We know that right now, as we speak, when we open our doors today, it's going to be close to over 150 schools that have already reprogrammed for 5 days a week instruction. But I also want to be really clear with the public that some schools have an extraordinarily high number of their students that have chosen in person.
Right.
They just physically don't have the space to bring everybody back 5 days a week because there's just not enough space. So our goal is to have as many students as many days possible. And given the number of students that are chosen in person, that gives schools some flexibility to be able to do that.
And I want to talk about the timeline then to reopen middle and high schools. Parents are very interested in a timeline here. I know it is sometime in January, but people obviously need to make plans. You and I have talked about this a number of times about giving people ample notice. Is there a set timeline for when middle and high school students will return to in-person learning?
Yeah, we're working hard on getting a definitive timeline. As the mayor has stated, going from monthly randomized testing to weekly randomized testing requires the buildup of capacity, which we've done for our K-3 through grade students. We have to build the same capacity for our middle school students and our high school students. So we're working hard and actively to be able to do that now. And we want to get some solid information to families very, very soon.
And lastly, about devices. Last time you and I spoke, there were many on the way. How many have been handed out and how many students still don't have one?
Yeah, we've handed out, I think since the last time we talked, it's been a couple of weeks, we've handed out now well over 60,000 devices. There are more being delivered every single day. we are well on track to have a device in every student's hands that has let us know they need one before the winter break.
Understood. Chancellor Carranza, big morning for you. Thank you for making the time this morning. And if I don't talk to you before the holiday, you enjoy the holiday. Stay safe to you and your family.
Thank you, Dan. You too. Take care.
Okay, appreciate it. 7:50.